we're back. We're better than ever. And we've got a brand new Amaretto to review.
Let's do it.
Hey Aficionados, Miguel and Shawn here. And we have got a new liqueur here to review for you guys. This is Luxardo's Amaretto. We've done Amaretto before. Disaronno, I think, is the only Amaretto we've done for the channel.
Our first liqueur review, by the way.
Yes.
Plug. Watch that.
So this is Luxardo's Amaretto. We've done some reviews of Luxardo's drinks. Their maraschino, I believe their cherry, their limoncello.
Their sangue morlacco.
Yep. So they have a full line of like traditional Italian liqueurs that they offer. They're pretty good standby distillery.
Affordable too.
Very affordable too. I've heard really good things about their Amaretto. I've never tried it before. Amaretto, of course, is the Italian liqueur that is flavored after almonds, not necessarily made using almonds. The website doesn't mention the ingredients that are used in it. It just says that it's slightly drier than other Amarettos, which Amarettos are mostly sweet. The company that imports these into the United States, Anchor Distilling, says or claims that it's made with cherry pits, almond pits, and peach pits. But then another review that I read mentioned that this is made with the highest quality almonds, which are from a region in southern Sicily. So I don't know if that's true.
And I think it's kind of interesting that they don't really specify whether or not it contains almonds, because that really could be a concern to people who have nut allergies too. So
if you do have nut allergies, I would probably recommend
just to be safe, stay away from this one. And this one is 28% ABV, and it has caramel color added. So for the branding on this one, the first thing that you will notice is this very sleek bottle that gets fat at the bottom and skinnies up towards the top. To me, it reminds me of like a perfume or something like that, like a perfume bottle. Very bright red cap on this one with like the sleek black label. And the label is very fancy looking with all this like gold and red script font. Looks very Italian.
Yeah, Luxardo generally is pretty good with their branding. They're very distinct. I will say this one does have a bit of an awkward form factor to it. This is actually kind of traditional for Amarettos. So there are a lot of Amarettos that have this kind of triangular design, except Disaronno, which has a very distinct bottle. So first we're going to try this neat, as Amarettos generally tend to taste very different on the rocks and neat. And some are better neat, some are better on the rocks. So we definitely want to try this both ways before we come to our conclusions. Yeah, I'm getting a lot of cherry, almost like a black cherry.
Of course, it does have like a nuttiness to it as well.
I'm getting a decent amount of alcohol on the nose.
Yeah, it definitely smells really warm. Burns the nostrils a little bit when you dig your nose in. Smells very sweet.
Definitely getting some apricot.
Honestly, just from the nose, it doesn't seem too different from Disaronno.
Yeah, it very much smells like a stereotypical Amaretto, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I mean, Amarettos have a very distinct almondy smell, and this has that.
It definitely smells enticing.
Cheers.
Cheers. Now that's definitely different. Right off the bat, generic sweetness that a lot of Luxardo's liqueurs have. It's weird. It's almost like slightly fruity and like a generic fruity character. But I get it from almost every single one of their liqueurs.
It makes you salivate a lot because of just how intensely sweet it is.
I wouldn't say it's one of the more drier Amarettos I've had. I guess, no. On the finish, it dries up. Also, it is more on the thin-bodied side.
Definitely. It's not nearly as syrupy as Disaronno is. It has a very interesting kind of citrusy quality, though, that I'm getting on the mid-palate.
Almost like those little wedged candies that have the sugar coating on them.
Exactly. Like the orange flavor of those wedged candies.
Yeah. I'm noticing it a lot more now that you mention that. The big flavors I get is, of course, that cherry type flavor. To me, it comes off as a little bit like black cherry. But again, some of those like maraschino cherries, the little red ones that come in those jars, definitely a nuttiness, like candied almond or something like that.
It almost has like a licorice kind of pungent taste.
Hints of like red licorice in there. Even a bit of black licorice, and it comes through a little bit bitter, I would say.
I would say the alcohol is very harsh.
Very strong warming to this one.
Yeah. To me, I get the alcohol like up through my nose when I'm drinking this. Which I think is, again, that's something we'd mentioned in previous Luxardo reviews, that they do tend to have an alcohol that doesn't hide itself, which is for good or bad, depending on your perspective.
But I think there is like a nice caramel sweetness to this one too.
Like, now that I'm thinking about it, I would say that this is drier than like Disaronno, for example, was so full-bodied and sweet. Whereas this has kind of a bitterness, it's almost like a sourness to it. It's coming through to me as a citrusy orange quality.
I think it lights up immediately with like sweetness and flavor. And then it just kind of like cleans up and dries up towards the finish. It's not as like sweet and like syrupy as Disaronno.
I'm really interested to see what it's going to be like on the rocks.
I was just going to say that, so we'll be right back.
Okay, so we've let it sit on the rocks for a little bit. It's nice and cool now.
I think the aroma is a little bit more muted. I'm noticing more of like a floral character coming out.
Yeah, I'm definitely getting a lot less alcohol on the nose.
I think I noticed some of that citrus a little bit more.
The cherry smell is a sweeter cherry. It's definitely a lot less aggressive on the nose now. It smells lighter and sweeter, basically. Let's try it.
Cheers.
Cheers.
I noticed that orange a lot more now.
Yeah. And all of the harshness I had been getting before from that alcohol is almost entirely muted. It's a much smoother, velvety almost, I would say.
If you gave this glass to me and didn't tell me it was an Amaretto, I wouldn't think it was an Amaretto. To me, that orange flavor is so prominent, I would have thought it was some sort of orange liqueur.
Now that you're saying it, it kind of reminds me of Mandarin Napoleon. It has that candied orange kind of quality.
Mandarin Napoleon is an orange liqueur that we both tried.
It's kind of limited. It's hard to find, but it's definitely out there.
I don't even notice much of the cherry flavor now either. Still got a little bit of like a caramel type sweetness.
It's like a toffee kind of sweetness, I would say.
The complexity is pulled back once you add the ice to it.
I would definitely agree that it's less complex, although it is a much smoother drinking experience. But you're right, now it is the citrus quality is kind of overtaking it. It's less dry, although I wouldn't say it's entirely sweet.
I do notice the sweetness on the finish more. It doesn't dry up as quickly.
It still has that almond quality that an Amaretto has. It still has the sweetness. It's just complicated a little bit by the citrusy aspect of it. It's very unlike most of the Amarettos I've had. It drinks a little cleaner, I think, than something like Disaronno does. And again, it goes to show you that when you're drinking Amaretto, always try it both ways. Always. Because it's an entirely different experience. Okay, so for the final thoughts here, I'll start off. This is an incredibly interesting drink. Easily one of the most distinctive Amarettos I've ever had. The citrusy quality was very exciting and interesting. I love the difference between it neat and on the rocks. Just the warmth of it, the spiciness of it, the dryness of it, not what I would expect from an Amaretto at all, but it was very satisfying. Out of all the Amarettos I've had, this is easily the most interesting one that I've tried. I think it's really good. I'm going to give it a 4.5. It feels really well crafted. There are a few missteps here and there. I do think that the alcohol neat is just a little harsh. Also, the body is a little bit on the thin side, although I'm kind of on the fence as to whether or not I consider that a plus or a minus. I am of the opinion that most Amarettos are too thick. So I would give this one the edge over Disaronno in that regard, and in the flavor regard as well. Really, I've never had anything like this in this genre. I really highly recommend it.
I'm going to give this one a 4.5 out of 5 as well. This is my favorite Amaretto so far. I like this better than Disaronno. You can't argue with the price of this one. It's at least $10 cheaper than Disaronno. And I think that the flavor that this has, the complexity in this drink, is almost miles ahead of Disaronno. I would recommend drinking it neat just because I think that it's a lot more complex that way. I think it's a little bit one-noted when you add the ice to it. It's not bad on the rocks. I just prefer it neat. I have a couple complaints. You mentioned them both. It's a little bit too warm for me, a little bit too alcohol forward when you're drinking it neat. And then, of course, I think it's a little bit too thin as well. I wish it was a little bit more luxurious feeling. But those are my only complaints about it. I mean, even though it is a little bit thin, it more than makes up for it in the flavor.
So what about you guys? Have you tried Luxardo Amaretto? Do you think it's better than Disaronno? Or is there some other contender we haven't heard of who's vying for the throne? Please let us know in the comments below. And remember, whether it's liqueurs, movies, games, or beer,
If you're looking for reviews, you can find them right here.
see you later. I'm ready, Mr. Krabs. I'm ready for your Krabs.
That ice cube, though.
It's that cube, though.
That cube. Splish splash, you were taking it back.
Banging around in your mouth, going all over the place. Oh my god, this is
I couldn't.
bouncing around in
I
your mouth.
don't know if there's a good way of saying that.
Okay.
I'm usually really good at holding it together, but you went over with that one.